With Arknights Enfield coming out sometime in 2025, there are many things I would like to see added to the game by the time of release. Today I've narrowed it down to my top 5. Number 1. Good story. With Honkai Star Rail's Penacony saga, Genshin's Fontaine story, and pretty much the entirety of Fate Grand Order, the bar is set very highly for gacha stories. You know, I play Arknights, and I do very much believe that Hyperglyph can produce a well-written story. However, Arknights tell its story through a visual novel style, and Enfield, I presume, will be cutscenes and exchanges of dialogue in the 3D world. From what I've seen so far at least. This is quite the jump in terms of the way of storytelling, and I do think not a lot of games nail it well. For example, while I absolutely loved the story of Fire Emblem Three Houses, I heavily dislike how they do dialogue exchanges outside of the animated cutscenes. The characters' movements feel janky and unnatural. The background is very obviously 3D and very off-putting. There aren't a lot of facial expressions or varied movements when the characters are talking to each other, and that does affect the way the story is told, or how the characters are developed. For me, it makes the very emotional and important support dialogues very forgettable, even when they tell important parts of the story. What I think Hyperglyph should do is invest in the storytelling. With Arknights, Hyperglyph have clearly showed that they can write a beautiful story with rich lore and world building. But good delivery is as important as having good writing. People definitely pick up on the bad body language and facial expressions of characters, no matter how antisocial the gacha community is. As an example, look at Zenless Zone Zero, and the way characters feel very alive. Although the facial expressions might be exaggerated, and they might be a bit goofy the idea is still there. The characters feel real, and you feel much more immersed. The thing is, people playing gachas often come back every patch to experience the story. A good, well-told story is often a strong retaining factor for the casual players. The more the people are attached to the story, the more they're gonna think about it, draw characters from it, make memes out of it, and so on. And it will give Arknights Enfield a stronger cultural prevalence as well, with a more dedicated audience enabled by the more accessible storytelling. High quality skins. If you played Arknights, you know how the skins are. People, including me, are often willing to get the best skins for their favourite characters. It gives people a nice level of customization to some extent. It can also help paint characters in new perspectives with different style. As a big fan of skins, I am looking forward to what Arknights Enfield has to offer. A lot of 3D gacha games like Genshin, Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves either don't have skins at all, or have skins that feel very lackluster to a majority of the fan base, that also release very infrequently. Skins are very interesting tools at the hand of game developers. While they don't affect gameplay, they do change the feel of the characters in terms of visual and audio aspects. You can drive sales to older characters by releasing skins for them, or entice players who don't like characters' base design to pull for them. You don't really need to worry about balancing or power creep, or upsetting the balance of the gameplay loop, so in my opinion, they are a win-win in gacha games. Many people like buying skins for their characters and showing them off in co-op, to show off their taste and to flex on their friends. The way that Riot does skins in League of Legends is very creative, and I do enjoy it quite a bit. A lot of the characters get personally designed skins, Mafia Twitch being an iconic example. The character gets a different voice line, outfit, look, and visual effects, completely transforming them while still retaining their identity. I also like the skin lines that Riot does, like the Project line, KDA, and Star Guardian. Arknights does it too with a Bloodline of Combat skin line, but they follow a concept rather than the same design elements, giving them the best of both worlds of having a unique skin for a character and allowing a skin line. I really enjoy the Arknights system and how accessible it is to free-to-play players, because you can choose to either spend your pulling currency on skins, or you can spend them on pulls for pulling new characters. I really hope they bring this system to Arknights Enfield, as I don't see many 3D gachas having good skin systems. Well thought out endgame. Once most players are done with the story, events, and exploration, they build their characters to be in the best of shape and ready for combat, and that usually means taking on the most difficult content the game has to offer. The endgame. Most games follow the Genshin Impact spiral abyss formula. You climb a tower that resets once in a while, and clear increasingly difficult enemies and floors, getting a few pulls and materials as compensation. However, over the years, the formula's gotten stale and feels unoriginal. While most players don't mind it being part of endgame modes, in 2024 it's no longer acceptable that games launch with this being the sole mode for endgame. If you pull characters, their weapons, and spend weeks building them, the player needs a mode to challenge them, to push them, to improve their builds further, push them to strategize better, push them to understand their characters fully. Of course, most importantly, it has to be fun. And from what I've seen Hyperglyph do with Arknights, I do have a lot of hope. Integrated Strategies, or IS, is quite a challenging mode, and I've seen a lot of the community gather around to find strategies and combinations that work well. Rotating annihilation maps are also fun mode, forcing you to fight waves of 400 enemies on every map. The new mode, Reclamation Algorithm, is very unique and well thought out, adding aspects of survival, exploration, resource management to a tower defense game, allowing players to sink many hours into it. With all the experience Hyperglyph has, I would be disappointed that when Enfield releases, we just get the bog standard towered mode that every gacha game has now. At minimum, I would like to see another endgame mode besides it. I do understand if they're reluctant to release more than 2 modes at the start, and are waiting on feedback from players before sinking hours and money into developing a new mode, but we just have to wait and see. It is, however, something I care about deeply, and a lot of the player base does too. Engaging events. Typically the way that patches go in these types of gacha games is like this. A new patch drops with a new character to pull, a new story, quests, and areas to explore. However, most people finish all of their available content within 2 weeks, if not days, leaving them with several weeks with no content. What gacha games do is they sprinkle a few events with enticing rewards like pulls, resources, progression materials, with hopefully unique and gimmicky limited time modes. This breaks up the monotony of logging in, doing your dailies, spending stamina, and logging off during the downtime in gacha games between patches. It gives people something to look forward to, even after the patch has dropped. Bad or boring events can negatively affect player retention mid-patch, as players are forced to log in and complete unfun events, or they lose out on rewards and fall behind in terms of progression. You also have people who would rather take breaks than take part in events. For gacha games, breaks are dangerous, because it means the player is more likely not to come back, compared to someone who's still playing and doing their dailies. I mean, personally, I quit HSR during the first week of 1.1. for 10 days because the museum event that was going on there was very boring and it felt like a chore to do. I finished all the updates, story and exploration content and was left with nothing to do afterwards, except for the monotonous and menial tasks in the museum event. So with nothing to do or look forward to for another 5 weeks, I took a break. And luckily I came back later, although many of my friends did not. Events are crucial to fill up the downtime between patches and to entice players to stay. Gacha devs put limited time rewards such as exclusive weapons, pull currency, materials as rewards for completing the event to entice players who might not be too excited by the event to play it to boost their progression. The issue in this system is the limited weapons like the tutorial icon in Honkai Star Rail, the Cinnabar sword in Genshin Impact. In these examples, missing out on these events can majorly affect the long-term progression of players compared to those who missed out on the event or players who have not played during that time. The damage to progression can even affect whales due to the unique stats and nature of these items, and in general is not a nice experience to the new players as you always feel as if your account is not complete. I think Hyperglyph should adopt the Honkai Star Rail system of events, but with a twist. While in Honkai Star Rail all major events can be played in later patches, you miss out on major portions of the rewards and jades, and most importantly the exclusive weapon or the free unit selectors. I think Arknights Enfield's events should be permanently available, including any exclusive drops, but with reduced materials or pulling currency if you decide to do it at a later date rather than in the patch it drops. This way you give new players a chance of getting older rewards without having to rerun stale events. And current players have an incentive to do the events immediately to get the bonus pulls, for example. You combine the best of both worlds and create a game that gets even better with time. Number 5. Co-op features. In gacha games, the community is very important to the player base. Getting lucky in your pulls will not feel as good if you don't have anyone to rub it in their face. Having a strong community, making guides, drawing art, creating memes helps keep the players interested in the game and keeps it in their mind. And co-op is the easiest, most fun way to reinforce and foster community sentiment. Whether it's farming with a friend, visiting their base, or doing events together, games are more enjoyable with friends, in my opinion. Good co-op can expand a gacha game's potential very well. In Arknights Enfield, I want to be able to farm and explore with my friends, and I want that progress to be shared when applicable. It's much more motivating to farm and to do dailies when you have people with you helping you by your side. If they have spent money on the game, you can also see how powerful their characters are, and it can make getting copies of the same character more enticing for social brownie points. For example, whenever I join a co-op farming session with random people in Genshin Impact, and I use my C2 Zhongli, people often tend to thank me and appreciate my shielding, which makes getting the 2 extra Zhongli copies worth it. The same can be done for Enfield, and it's a win-win for the gacha game and the playbase too. At the very least, I think we should be able to visit each other's bases and copy their designs, or share blueprints to the entire base or parts of it. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video and what I had to say, make sure to like and sub. If you disagree with anything, then please let me know in the comments or join the Discord and have a discussion. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.